everybody, it's Jake, and we're here for another exciting episode of Indie City TV. I'm joined by the handsome and lovable Trinket Studios, Tom and Eric. There is a third, but he bailed on us. Ben. But that's fine, because now we have an artist and a programmer here. And I mean, honestly, do we need another programmer? I don't even want one. I just want to talk to Eric all day. But it's okay.
Feel free.
So one of the main reasons you guys are here today is because you recently launched your Kickstarter, your first Kickstarter.
Oh yeah.
Battle Chef Brigade. And it's blowing up. It's 11 days left, and you guys are at 68,000, I want to say.
62.
62?
Yeah.
Wishful thinking.
We're going there.
You guys didn't see?
We'll be there soon.
You didn't see? I made a big pledge. But no, I mean, it's blowing up. Your original goal was
38.
38.
Yeah.
And you've reached your stretch goals. You're now going to have some voice acting, which is very exciting. I am expecting to receive a call about that.
Oh, really?
We'll worry about that later. But yeah, I mean, tell us a little bit about your game, just so we can have that out there. And if people haven't heard of it, we can get a little more info on it.
Yeah, so Battle Chef Brigade is Iron Chef in a fantasy environment. There's a lot more other inspirations, but the key thing is that you've got fantasy, so you got orcs, elves, and humans, and then they hunt monsters to collect ingredients that they then bring to the kitchen and cook for the judges. So that's the core thing, is like that hunting, cooking, and serving to the judges.
So it's got some like Monster Hunter vibes. I mean, I think that's the first thing I reacted to when I saw it, but I think Monster Hunter is so boring. That's just me. I recognize it as a good game, and I know people love it, and I know people are going to get mad at me for saying it, but I can't stand Monster Hunter. Mostly because the scale of it is too big for me. I get so bored walking around just to fight this giant monster that's going to take forever. And like from what I've seen, it's it's 2D side scrolling, so that automatically lowers the amount of walking around you do, and it seems much more fast paced. And also the cooking seems to be a big center point for it.
Yeah, like a key inspiration are all the Food Network shows, like Master Chef, Top, Iron Chef, whole bunch more blanking on.
That's okay.
And all of them are about timed competitions, and that's like a key part of TV shows, competitions. And so it was always our intention that it's really fast-paced hunting and then fast-paced cooking. And it's an action game first and foremost, mainly because we just wanted to make an action game.
Yeah. So I mean, speaking to some of your games, this isn't your first game, especially even at Trinket Studios. But beyond that, where did you guys get your start in game development?
Tom and I, we actually met at Wideload Games, and we actually kind of were there around the same time, right?
Yeah.
Like, when did you join?
I think so. Disney acquired Wideload right between our hiring. So I was hired. Then Disney bought us and everyone became sad. And then Eric came.
Yeah. And then everyone was happy.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a relocation bonus, but Eric
and
did.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Disney helped me move and everything. It was wonderful.
That does sound wonderful. Thanks, Disney.
Yeah.
He was working in a little subsect of Wideload called Shorts, and it was rapid prototyping, smaller games.
It's kind of like a funded indie, which is why I went there, because it was so perfect.
And I was on the main team. Guilty Party was the game at the time. They brought me on to do the character design and stuff like that. So I didn't know anyone at all, and so I just knew that I had to kind of put myself out there and just say hi to everyone. And for some reason, there was some sort of spark between Tom and I.
It was pretty clear that Eric was talented early on.
Yeah. So I'm gonna, in case someday I make an indie studio, that I'm gonna need a talented artist.
Confession, that was exactly my plan. I came in, my long-term life goals included going to a cool studio, working there for 6 years,
and then stealing the most talented person.
With the most talented people to form an indie company.
Wait, are you being serious or are you joking?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
And the Disney acquisition happened.
Your entire friendship is built on a lie.
It's okay, I still like you.
You kidnapped me.
Well, the Disney acquisition kind of accelerated that. I couldn't last 6 years under Disney.
We met there, and I don't really know what our first conversations were. We were just we hit it off. We're also two of the youngest people in the studio. I guess that helped.
Yeah.
And I don't know, one day we were just like, let's go get a bite to eat. So we went on like a mini date kind of thing, a bro date, and had some Thai food. And we were like, you like Firefly? Oh my god, I love Firefly too. And just like all these
all the
Sounds
boring,
awful.
obvious things.
But guess what? It was all a lie.
Yeah.
He just wanted you for your art.
doesn't
I don't even like anything.
I hate Thai food and Firefly. I'm glad it got canceled. Fuck Joss Whedon.
Yeah, and I don't know. I remember I've mentioned this story before, like, but it's like a really clear memory to me, so that's why I bring it up a lot. But there was just this one day that I like went over to your desk, or
I think I came over
you
to
came
your
over to my
desk.
desk, and we were standing there, and we're supposed to be talking about guilty party stuff, but I was just like, hey, by the way, would you be interested in ever working on something for fun? Like, trying to be, like, really down low about it. And you were just like...
Let's talk later. It was one of the first games. So, when we were like, hey man, let's make games together. Like, and we were all being all secretive. We started prototyping some really cool ideas that, of course, had amazing concept art.
Oh.
And like Silverlocks and the Three Bears.
Silverlocks and the Three Bears. And should I just
Yeah,
describe
yeah.
it? Okay.
Why not?
Well, so
We'll make it someday.
our very first game idea ever, and also we were called Space Buoy Games.
Which is,
I don't know, how did we
I
even
don't
come
know.
up
We
with
just
that?
gave up because names are hard.
But this is why you were still
Yeah.
at Wideload, or was this when you left?
We don't publicly state an answer to that question.
But yeah, one of our first ideas was Silverlocks and the Three Bears, and it was going to be a side-scroll shooter, kind of like Metal Slug. No, not kind of, pretty much. Pretty much Metal Slug, but it was bears in mechs shaped like bears fighting lumberjacks that were cutting down their forest.
That sounds
And it
really
had-
ambitious.
It had Silverlocks, who's like Goldilocks,
But she was on their side.
Was it with three
with a
X's?
twist.
Yeah.
No, that would have been weird.
Oh, I guess. So.
Or awesome, but we didn't.
Okay, but yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really, like, she was like their mechanic.
it was just
Kind of
really
like-
intense.
And there was a grandpa bear that was like the Donkey
Bear.
Kong old guy.
Mm-hmm.
Cranky Kong, yeah.
And you're just trying to save your forest from being
Yeah.
cut
And
down.
it was amazing. And then we're like, this is a really big game. Why are we doing this in our free time?
Yeah.
And then it turned into like, let's make a simpler like puzzle game.
Tamagotchi
Yeah.
pet thing.
Yeah.
That's the next
it was
step.
like it was called Pet Glitch. That was the code
Mhm.
name, and it
Yeah.
was like a Tamagotchi, but the game is like broken, and the character playing the Tamagotchi gets sucked into it, and there's like a master hand sort of thing that it says like the cursor for what button you're pressing or whatever that is evil, and it's like killing your pet, and so you're like sucked into the game, and that was Will, the chubby main character in Gastro Boy.
Mhm.
And so we started working on that, and we made this like really elaborate puzzle system. And then somehow we decided that wasn't a good idea either.
Well, so the thing about Pet Glitch is that it was a point and click adventure essentially, because you had to figure out it was all puzzles,
Yeah.
and a lot of our assets with like there were huge art assets with like the environment and stuff, and I think we just thought
Yeah,
it was
we're like, okay, this is too big again.
again.
And then we're like, let's use this character because he's awesome, but let's make like a platformer physics puzzle thing. And it didn't really start off that way. It started off with the zooming mechanic where he eats things by like if he's within a certain radius, then he can like zoom towards it. And we made like this really simple zigzag puzzle was like the main thing, and he could get up to a higher place using that. And it was all about the timing of when you ate the things, because you could like fly by it and do it from this side or this side. And that they just like grew from there. We're
Yeah.
like, hey, look, we made a game.
And that's kind of the first game you guys made together then.
Yeah.
Yep.
This
Absolutely.
was the
Official.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just like showed it to our
Yeah.
friends, and never did anything with it.
Yeah, I remember you showing it to me and me being like, what are you gonna do?
We're like,
I
nothing.
don't know.
Indie platformers are like a dime a dozen, and,
Yeah.
and like it was a Flash game,
Right.
so we could have released it on
Yeah.
some of the Flash portals,
Mhm.
but it's not a lot of money,
Right.
because that was kind of dying out, and we were like, we could add on this, but
Just kind of keep it as this thing.
let it
that we
hang
did.
out.
Yeah.
Bring it back
It was
someday.
like it was a proof to us that we could complete something. I guess that's where it started, and then just moved
Yeah.
from there.
What ended up? I mean, did you guys leave? Did what happened to Wideload?
Yeah, you can
Did it-
tell.
So then that it took we still realized that we needed to work somewhere and make money,
Right.
and Wideload was made of really great people, and I really enjoyed working there. Especially like early on, it was sort of like we had to finish Guilty Party because Disney was the publisher for Guilty Party and then acquired us before it was released. So we really were focused on Guilty Party. They put the whole team together on it, and so that's when like everyone started, including Ben. Like we're all working together, and that was really nice. And the game, I'm really proud of the work on Guilty Party.
I had an awesome art director, Seth Grima, so like it was a whole team effort.
Yeah.
Like designing all the characters.
Yeah.
But
It
I
was
was
He was the character concept
I was
artist.
the concept artist.
Obviously,
Yeah.
the humble
Yeah,
character concept
yeah.
artist.
But
Do you have any of that stuff still by any chance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have like the folder of I shouldn't say this because
Okay, and then just from there on, you just kind of like what happened?
Yeah,
then
so
then
like-
it was like 2 years of canceled Disney projects where so Guilty Party was like a Wideload designed game, and then everything after that was this is what Disney or
Yeah.
Marvel would like you to
yeah,
think.
and then they bought Marvel
Yeah.
like a year
Yeah,
later.
and they're like,
We're gonna get to make a Spider-Man game. It's like
Yeah.
we don't actually own Spider-Man. It's like,
Yeah.
well, then what's the point?
it turned into and like there were some really cool pitches like in the early period where it was like we want you to use Marvel, here are some characters, and then it was kind of cool, like there was some Luke Cage and Iron Fist stuff.
Yes.
It was
Luke
going to be
Cage
like
and
a
Iron Fist.
detective buddy cop
What?
thing. It was going to be this really cool family game for the Wii. Oh, a lot of projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They, like a lot of things, we get into the point where we're excited about the prototype and then they cancel it, and
That sounds
that was
really
brutal.
frustrating.
and so, like, it was during that period that it was pretty clear that a lot of people were unhappy. And then eventually they settled on make Infinity Blade with the Hulk.
What made you make the switch, like to want to be indie? To want
For me, it was like that whole Disney process was horrible. Like, having projects canceled is something that when you're just working by yourself on your own little hobby projects, you don't really have to experience because you get to cancel them if you don't like them. But we liked some of them, and then they were canceled, and that's just really tough. And so I knew pretty early on. I think the first thing when the acquisition was announced to us, Alex Seropian came in, and he was like, you know, we've been acquired. The first thing I asked was, does this mean that we can't ever make Stubbs a Zombie 2? Because I thought that was like the best Wideload game.
Oh yeah, because you were. That's right. Because you and Chris from Ragtag worked on that together, right?
No, I wasn't there for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but it
Chris
was still
Wait,
like
so
Chris was.
weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys. That's so
We were
odd.
after
Like
that
we were
period.
super.
We were
like,
so I
pretty
interned.
newbies.
I
Yeah.
interned at Wideload when they were working on Hail to the Chin.
How
So
sad
so
this
that's
is.
why I
Yeah.
asked him because I was like, that's the Wideload I wanted to work in, and he was like, no, Disney's not gonna.
Yeah, unless they can turn it into a movie, which.
I was like, maybe there's
Yeah.
hope. Like Touchstone is still Disney, but
Yeah.
it's like the edgier label. Like, come on, it's like Wideload, totally different.
I don't know.
Yeah,
And-
and even like Guilty Party, which you mentioned, it kind of caught you off guard because you're like, here's all these new characters. There's not a single cameo of an existing character, and they acquired us when we were working on it, and they liked it and everything. Even that, it didn't go anywhere. Like for a
we
2 or
worked on
something.
Disney
Yeah.
or Disney Guilty Party 2 for a while, and
It just
yeah, there were a lot of things that they were like, you got Disney that, and then it was like, at first it was like, put the Haunted Mansion in there and like use the same characters, and we're like,
Yeah.
all right, we can work with that. And there were some cool pitches, or like in different like other rides at the parks. There was like the
the mountain
Yeti
with the
one.
prehistoric, with the
the
bones
Yeti.
in it.
Oh yeah, or
I just wrote
the
that
train
shit.
one.
That
Onion.
just sounds like some of the lists.
the
and
lightning gets
fucking-
weird.
But yeah, having them in like different rides and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it was like, what if we had like Mickey and his friends in a haunted mansion?
It's just like textbook.
Yeah, and then we're like, oh, this is pretty clear. And like that's when I was like, I don't know how long I can do this. This is no longer creatively fulfilling. But I think you still took a little more convincing that quitting was a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was just that like I don't catch on to all of the little nuance that happens in like the business sphere, and I don't know, I wouldn't call it politics, but just the bureaucracy.
Yeah, I guess there's bureaucracy,
yeah.
and there was politics. But
well, I mean, I definitely got my share of like too many cooks in the kitchen, and you know, like really.
That's good segue. If we use your segue, we do that. So go ahead.
And like a lot of like crazy revisions and all of that. But I guess the people were awesome, and it was always great coming into work and seeing like what essentially became my family, because as I mentioned, like when I came to Chicago, I didn't really know anyone, and so the people at Wideload became my friends, and so all of that I guess kind of like made everything nicer for me. One thing I didn't mention though is that like Tom and I actually became roommates like a year later, and it was just hilarious because like we'd come home and then he would like unload everything that he was feeling, and so that's how I got like the real picture of like how horrible
how bad
yeah.
But I think leaving it really helped that two other indie companies formed out of the same time after the Hulk came.
Mm-hmm.
Ragtag Studios, Matt Carter and Chris Cobb left at the same time as you, and then I stayed on a little longer because the art was done for the game in lockdown. So then a whole bunch of artists and Ryan Wiemeyer of the Men Who Wear Many Hats, all them quit. And then I quit a little later, and then Ben quit a little later after going to Disney World.
So three studios. Three great studios too.
Yeah,
I mean,
four if you count Patrick Curry like going on.
Yeah, sure.
He left a little before.
And like the thing that really like sealed the deal for me was because like being a concept artist, you know that you have to deal with revisions and art direction. So that's not like too
heartbreaking.
That's the normal part of the job. But it was when Chris Cobb and Matt Carter were leaving, and they're like I love them to death, and I just couldn't imagine going into work and not seeing them. So when they kind of let me know that they were going to leave soon, I was like, okay.
There's not a lot left for me
so
here.
I left at the exact same day as them.
I mean, okay, so you leave your big wig jobs. It's, this beautiful ship that you got on with the promise of Stuff the Zombie was slowly sinking because of the iceberg of Disney. I could do these all day.
Disneyberg.
Wow. Yeah. Disneyberg, perfect. But so what now? I mean, getting into this is like the conversation I'm most interested in. Is getting into the indie conversation. I mean, around what year did you leave?
2012.
Okay,
the
so
summer.
So that was not that long ago.
No.
Huh.
And we're just a little 2 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, we're only 2.
So I mean, the indie world was pretty much already established by this point. You know what I mean? Like Minecraft has already hit its insane benchmark.
Indie is a thing.
Indie in the movie came out that year, right? 2012.
Yeah, I think we might have.
We went to the
we went to the screening
at
here.
Music Box Theater.
I was there too.
Oh my god.
We might have like brushed shoulders or something.
That's like a whole like lost thing. Like we were all on the airplane.
Yeah.
Kind of
don't
thing.
do don't do it.
Oh no.
All right.
I'm sorry, but the even creeper is like there's a lot of indies that were at that.
And that's the thing.
Saga people were there, and we didn't know them yet.
Actually, like the whole indie scene right then was preparing to explode in Chicago.
Yeah.
I think like business-wise, like I was saying, I knew this is what I wanted to do, so I was very prepared. Like we had a lawyer and accountant and all that stuff set up, and like had already started looking into like should we be an LLC or an S corp and all that. But I think creatively, we were really fueled by how restricted we were at Disney, and then out of the gate we were just like, let's make more than one game. Let's not do long games. Let's do short games so we can start being creatively fulfilled and doing. And well, like early on, it was like let's make 3 mobile games because that's smallest games possible, really focused, and like we could just have fun with each of them. And so it was just like let's make Color Sheep, Orion's Forge, which at the time was called Stark, or Magna Balls.
You guys picked a way better name.
Magna Balls was the code name, because it's a magnet physics puzzle
right?
game, and Accidents. And we were like, let's develop all 3 of these at once.
It's so
switching off 2 weeks. Accidents was canceled because it's horrible.
At least you picked an app.
Yeah, it worked out. So
yeah, like of course, Accident didn't.
Yeah,
work out,
Accident was quite the accident. And but Color Sheep and Ryan's Forge, we switched on and off 2 weeks. And so Color Sheep was like, let's do hand illustrated, hand animated stuff because it's one of Eric's clear strengths. And Orion's Forge, Eric was like, let's do some 3D. So it's top down. So he was like, there's some good images of him complaining about Blender as he was learning it. But yeah, so it was like, let's make a kind of arcade game, Color Sheep, and that's really fast paced, stressful. And Orion's Forge is slower paced, physics, can't lose, with cool little illustrations, Samurai Jack inspired illustrations.
Yes. I feel like there are other projects that we were like, this is our dream project, like that are not Battle Chef Brigade.
And that's fair.
We went through a lot of ideas, and it was like after shipping Orion's Forge and Color Sheep, it was like 2 months of brainstorming. Like we were doing some like updates on Color Sheep or whatever, but it was a lot of like going out to Lake Michigan and like being like, how come we can't make a new awesome idea? But it was really fueled by, we got out the like, let's do a quick burst of creativity, and then it was like, we're indie because we want to make something we're really proud of, and that has to be larger than a 2-month game. And so we were trying to come up with really big ideas, and we really struggled with that. We really had we had a couple that we were like okay about, but it wasn't until we were like super worn out, eating lunch, sat down in front of the TV, turned on Food Network, and we're like, we could do a better cooking game. Like there's not a lot of cooking games, and they're usually very simple. There's like Cooking Mama, and it's like do this thing and you do it, and it's usually little mini games with a Wiimote sort of thing. Or there's like crafting mini games inside of other games that people really love, we've learned. But we were like, let's do one that really feels like cooking. And it was at the beginning, it was like cooking kind of feels like it's a timing problem, and you're like spinning a lot of plates. And so it started as literally a block puzzle game where you're like trying to fit in how to make all the dishes at once in the amount of time you have with all your different chefs, which is nothing like Battle Chef Brigade is right now. Because we also were like, let's make an action game, and it just kept evolving. And I think from that spark of let's make a good cooking game, it just started leading us around. And like we added fantasy because real ingredient simulation is really hard, and it's a lot easier to like mix in some fantasy ingredients so that we can say how it works and how they taste. And people aren't getting angry about like grandma's lasagna, I made it, and the judges hate it. And so fantasy started making sense from that perspective, and then it was like, wait a second, chefs already wear cool uniforms, they're kind of militaristic already. And like fantasy tropes, like flaming swords even, like that's really cool if someone has flaming knives and they're like chopping and searing, and they're like mixing in that magic stuff.
Just like anytime you've ever read a fantasy novel and you get to the food part, right?
We spent 3 months prototyping cooking mechanics, like just trying everything. It was like, we can do better than Cooking Mama, and it was like, oh, this is really hard. Cooking is like really hard, and it's really easy at the beginning. We're like, there's like tastes, and like that's like thing. Everything is like maybe it's sour, maybe it's savory, and we're like, oh wait, no, actually every single thing has like a nice little chemical molecular makeup that goes into your nose that has nothing to do with like other ingredients. They don't like interact. It's like chicken is chicken. And like that was like, oh yeah, this is not so easy. And we're still struggling with that to some degree, but I think so far we've gotten past that point where we're like, we need to simulate everything, And that was one of our first prototypes, was like full simulation of cooking, and I think we demonstrated that you could make a game like that,
Yeah.
and it would be like a hardcore
But
sim
would you
game.
want to?
But it was
want
not
to?
an action game. It is
Right.
like, get out your spreadsheet. You're gonna make a pie.
Make sure you leave it for an hour. You gotta let it cool.
yeah. And it's
Because like even so Pixar with Ratatouille, like I remember watching the behind the scenes extra type of thing, and they talked about their tech,
Yeah.
where it was like the noodles like fall and wrap around, and you can chop a carrot, and then the model will like show the size of the
Yeah.
carrot, and like the way how like the scallop just kind of has that little bit of give and slide. Like we're not gonna make that, you know. Like we can't make Sim Chef, and it also doesn't sound fun to
Yeah.
us. So a fantasy like goofy, crazy, magical cooking world sounds a lot more fun.